Okay, so we were discussing the stability conditions which I couldn't complete yesterday evening. So we'll go back to conditions for stability given the whole set of plots of the system function. So you are given h of s from which you can find out the plots of the poles of the system function on the S plane. So given the poles of h of s, we will see how to find out whether the system is stable or not. So this section is very important. And thereafter, we will try to find out the stability of the system function that we had just arrived at in the previous problem. Okay. So we'll just share the screen and then we'll go to the section on system stability. So this is the condition for stability that we already know. For a system to be stable, the impulse response of the system should be absolutely summable, absolutely integrable. So you have to read this as absolutely integrable. The impulse response of the system should be absolutely integrable. Okay, so the impulse response of the system should be absolutely integrable. So which will mean that the integral minus infinity to plus infinity modulus of h of t dt should be less than infinity. So this is something that we have already seen in the first module and in the second module. So you know that the Laplace transform of the impulse response can be written as h of s is equal to integral minus infinity to plus infinity h of t e raised to minus st dt. So that's your system function. Now you also know that the Fourier transform is the Laplace transform evaluated on the j omega axis, which is the y-axis. So where you know that s is equal to sigma plus j omega, and if I put sigma equal to 0, so that is just the j omega axis on the s plane. Okay, if I put sigma equal to 0, it is just the j omega axis on the s plane. So putting s is equal to j omega in h of s will give you the Fourier transform of h of t. So later in the continuation in the fourth module itself, we will call this h of j omega as the frequency response of the system. So now that frequency response, as you will later see, we will be having what is known as the magnitude response, which is just the magnitude part of h of j omega or modulus of h of j omega. And then we also have what is known as the phase response, which is the angular part of h of j omega. So modulus of h of j omega, you can write as modulus of integral minus infinity to plus infinity h of t e raised to minus j omega t dt. Okay, so as we have seen earlier, this should be upper bounded by integral minus infinity to plus infinity modulus of h of t e raised to minus omega t dt. So this is upper bounded. So which means the integral that is the modulus of integral minus infinity to plus infinity h of t e raised to minus omega t dt is less than or equal to integral of modulus of h of t e raised to minus omega t dt. So you can verify that very easily. This is now equal to integral minus infinity to plus infinity modulus of h of t into modulus of e raised to minus omega t dt. So you know that this part is equal to 1. The absolute value, that's the magnitude of a phasor, is equal to 1. So this therefore is equal to integral minus infinity to plus infinity modulus of h of t dt, which has to be less than infinity if the system has to be stable. So what does it indicate? This indicates that modulus of h of j omega has to be less than infinity. So what does it mean? Modulus of h of j omega should converge, or the Fourier transform of the system, that Fourier transform of h of t, that is the frequency response of h of t, should exist, or the Fourier transform of h of t should exist, or in other words, the Fourier transform of h of t, which is called as h of j omega, should converge. Okay, so for system stability, it's essential that this is to be a finite quantity or h of j omega should converge. So that is written here. For system stability, h of j omega should converge. Okay, so which means h of s should converge for sigma equal to 0. Obviously, h of s evaluated over the j omega axis gives you the Fourier transform h of j omega. So h of s should have a region of convergence that includes the line sigma equal to 0, which means the region of convergence should include what? Include the j omega axis. Is that clear? What does it mean? This also means that for a causal system, that's if you have a causal system, all the poles of the causal system should lie on the left of the j omega axis, because for a causal system, you know that the region of convergence exists from the uh, rightmost pole to plus infinity. So that is a for any right-sided sequence. Sorry, for any causal sequence, for any causal signal, the region of convergence exists from let's say the outermost pole, just outside the outermost pole to plus infinity. I hope this is clear. This we already have discussed. So which means that for a causal system, the poles, all the poles should lie on the left of the j omega axis, so that the region of convergence also includes the j omega axis. So this is very important. In fact, these two statements are very important. One is that the ROC of h of s should include the j omega axis. So here, suppose if the system is an anti-causal system, if the system is an anti-causal system, so that you do not get for temporal systems. All temporal systems have to be necessary causal, that we already seen, because the realizability condition, practical realizability condition is causality. The output cannot anticipate the input for a temporal system. So if the system is a speech processing system, then definitely the system has to be a causal system. Is that clear? Whereas if the system is an image processing system, the domain is not time, now the domain is space. So the system can be an anti-causal or a non-causal system. So therefore, you don't have to worry about causality. So in such cases, this statement is very important. The region of convergence of h of s should include the j omega axis. Say for example, if you have an anti-causal system, then the region of convergence should include the j omega axis. So which will mean that all the poles have to now lie on the right side of the j omega axis. Whereas for the causal systems, all the poles should lie on the left side of the j omega axis. Is that clear? So anyhow, what is important is that the region of convergence of h of s should include the j omega axis. So this is very important. These two statements are very important. So now we will revisit the previous question that we had already worked out. And okay, so we'll revisit this question that we have previously worked out, and then we'll look at this now. You have h of s is equal to 2 by s plus 1 minus 2 by s plus 2. Now, both the poles are on the left side of the j omega axis, that's on the left side of the s plane. So h of s is equal to 2 by s plus 1 minus 2 by s plus 2. Obviously, the region of convergence is real part of s greater than minus 1. So the region of convergence excludes a line sigma equal to minus 1 and extends leftwards from just outside sigma equal to minus 1 to plus infinity. Okay, extends, sorry, I should have said extends rightwards from just outside sigma equal to minus 1 to plus infinity. I hope this is clear. So what is the conclusion therefore? The region of convergence starts from just outside minus 1 to plus infinity. Just outside will mean that slightly greater than minus 1 to plus infinity. So therefore it includes the line sigma equal to 0, that it includes the j omega axis, and therefore the system is stable. Both poles lie on the left side of the s plane, that is left side of the j omega axis. So therefore, the system H of S is therefore stable. Okay. So this is the previous question that has been revisited now. Now we'll consider a few more questions using bilateral Laplace transforms. So consider the system described by y dash of t plus 2y of t is equal to x of t plus x dash of t. Now let us find out the impulse response of the system. The answer is computed very easily. You just take the Laplace transform throughout. Just take the Laplace transform throughout. Y dash of t plus 2y of t is equal to x of t plus x dash of t. If you take the Laplace transform throughout, you will get this as sy of s plus 2 into y of s is equal to x of s plus s into x of s. So therefore, you can write down h of s is equal to s plus 1 by s plus 2, which is an improper rational function. And you can perform long division and then write this is 1 minus 1 by s plus 2. So what is the, if you assume that this is a causal system, because this has to be a causal system because it's the independent variable is time, right? So h of t can be written as delta t minus e raised to minus 2t into u of t. Okay. Now we'll move on to another question. Given that y double dash of t plus y dash of t minus 2y of t is equal to x of t, you are asked to find out h of s and h of t for three different conditions. The first condition is when the system is causal. And the second condition is when the system is stable. And the third condition is when the system is neither causal nor stable, in which case the system does not have a Fourier, there is no frequency response for the system. So therefore, we will apply Laplace transform throughout and find out the expression for h of s. So taking Laplace transform throughout, this is s squared of y of s plus sy of s minus 2y of s is equal to x of s, which means you can write h of s is equal to 1 by s squared plus s minus 2 factorize as 1 by s minus 1 and s plus 2 partial factorize as 1 by 3 by s minus 1 plus minus 1 by 3 by s plus 2. Find out the partial factorial coefficients C1 and C2 like this. Now, you will need the signal to be, the system to be causal in the first case. So when the system is causal, so C by s minus 1 should give you a causal part and C2 by s plus 2 also should give you a causal part. So if this is causal, then h of t is equal to 1 by 3 e raised to t u of t plus this is minus 1 by 3 e raised to minus 2t into u of t. So with a region of convergence given by real part of s greater than 1. Okay. The combined region of convergence is the intersection of the individual region of convergences and it's equal to the region where the real part of s is greater than 1. So what does it mean? Is the j omega axis included in the region of convergence? You will see that it is outside of the region of convergence and therefore even though the system is causal, the system is not stable. Okay. Right. So the system cannot be causal and stable in this case, in this example. Now, if you need the system to be stable, if the system is stable, then you will have to sacrifice on causality. It's very obvious because the region of convergence for this section should include the j omega axis. So which means this has to be having a region of convergence of real part of s less than 1, for which you will need this signal to be anti-causal, this part to be anti-causal. Okay. And this part has to be causal as before because there also the region of convergence should include the j omega axis. So when h of t is stable, the first part is anti-causal. So therefore, this becomes, if you take the inverse Laplace transform, assuming that this is anti-causal, the inverse Laplace transform is minus 1 by 3 e raised to t into u of minus t plus minus 1 by 3 into e raised to minus 2t into u of t. So what is the region of convergence now? Region of convergence is a vertical strip in the S domain between minus 2 and 1. Is that okay? So therefore, the system is now stable, but the system is not causal because the first part is an anti-causal sequence. Now, for the third case, when the system is neither stable nor causal, so obviously the region of convergence should not include the j omega axis. So therefore, what will be h of t? H of t, this part will be giving you a causal sequence because the region of convergence does not include the unit circle. It starts from 1 to infinity, and this part has to be an anti-causal sequence. The region of convergence starts from minus 2 and grows up to minus infinity. So from minus infinity to minus 2 for this, and from 1 to infinity for this. So which means the j omega axis is totally missed out in the region of convergence. Okay. Is that clear? So that is the third case. So therefore, the first part has to be a causal sequence, and the second part has to be an anti-causal sequence. So which you write as 1 by 3 e raised to t u of t plus 1 by 3 e raised to minus 2t u of minus t. So there is no region of convergence for this signal h of t. Okay. So you can put it in many ways. So this h of t or the corresponding h of s refers to an unstable system. That is one way to put it. The second is that that system does not have a frequency response, which means h of j omega cannot be computed. Okay. Okay. So then we move on to another question, which is to find out the overall system function for this system with feedback here. The overall system with feedback as shown in the figure. This is x of t going through a forward transfer function represented by f of s. And the feedback tap is taken, and this is shown as a positive feedback. So in the sense that you have a plus sign here. So e of t you can write as x of t plus r of t. So you call this as a positive feedback if this is a plus sign here. Obviously also depending on what g of s does. So here this sign is plus. Okay, so both signs are plus. So the signal e of t, which you normally call as the error signal e of t, is the sum of x of t and r of t here. So x of t we assume to be Fourier transform to x of s. Y of t, the output you assume to be Fourier transform to y of s. R of t, you also call it as a residual signal. R of t, it's Fourier transform to r of s, and e of t, the error signal is Fourier transform. All these are to be read as Laplace transform. X of t Laplace transform to x of s, y of t to y of s, r of t to r of s, and e of t to e of s. So where e of t is equal to x of t plus r of t. Okay. So if you take the Laplace transform throughout, then you can write e of s is equal to x of s plus r of s. X of s plus r of s. Now what is r of s? R of s is g of s into y of s. So e of s is equal to x of s plus g of s into y of s. Call it as equation A. Now we will try to represent this equation A only in terms of x of s and y of s, so that you can find out the overall transfer function of this system. So therefore we can write this as writing this form that we have mentioned as follows. So we have y of s by e of s, y of s by e of s is equal to f of s, y of s by e of s is equal to f of s. So what is there for e of s? E of s we can write as y of s by f of s. Okay. So this part is represented in terms of y of s. Now, therefore, we can write y of s by f of s is equal to x of s plus g of s into y of s. Or we can write this as y of s is equal to f of s into x of s plus f of s into g of s into y of s, or y of s by x of s, which we call as h of s, that is the overall transfer function of the system or overall system function of the system, equal to f of s by 1 minus f of s into g of s. Okay, so the overall transfer function of the system is f of s by 1 minus f of s into g of s. So far we had been applying the bilateral Laplace transform to systems. Now, the systems that we had considered did not have any initial stored energy, or we had assumed that there were no initial conditions or zero initial conditions. Now, what if the system does have some initial conditions? For example, if there is a capacitor in the system, what if the system has got, what if the capacitor has got stored charge, or there is a initial capacitor voltage? Okay, so that's the case for an RC circuit. Similarly, you can consider the case for an RL circuit or an RLC circuit, etc., where there is an initial stored energy in the circuit. So, how to analyze such systems? As we have seen, the unilateral Laplace transform is the tool that is employed to analyze systems that have non-zero initial conditions. The unilateral Laplace transforms specifically deal with causal linear time invariant systems which accept causal inputs. Okay, so causal linear time invariant systems that accepts causal inputs, and the linear time invariant systems may or may not have zero initial conditions, which means that you can have non-zero initial conditions, which we had not accounted for in the bilateral Laplace transforms. Okay, so the unilateral Laplace transforms are useful to analyze causal systems with a non-zero input conditions and causal signals. So we'll start by applying the unilateral Laplace transform to this second order differential equation as follows. We'll solve y double dash of t plus 5y dash of t plus 6y of t is equal to x of t, with the initial conditions as y0 equal to 2, y dash 0 is equal to 1, and the input x of t is equal to e raised to minus t into u of t. So you are given the initial conditions as y0 and the y dash of 0. So we'll assume that y of 0 minus, which is just before t equal to 0, y of 0 minus is equal to y of 0, and y dash of 0 minus is equal to y dash of 0. And we will use the unilateral Laplace transform representations where small l is used as the subscript to distinguish that it is a unilateral Laplace transform. So let us consider that y of t has got a unilateral Laplace transform given by yl of s. Okay, and x of s has got x of t has got a unilateral Laplace transform given by xl of s. So you can take the unilateral Laplace transform of this equation throughout. So y double dash of t, y dash of t has got a unilateral Laplace transform given by s yl of s minus y0 minus. You have taken y0 minus to be equal to y0. So therefore, and y0 in this question is equal to 2. So therefore, we can write this as s yl of s minus 2. Okay, and y double dash of t is equal to s squared yl of s minus s y0 minus y dash of 0 minus. So you have y dash of 0 minus is equal to 1 here, and y of 0 minus is equal to 2, because you have equated them to y of 0 minus equated to y of 0, and y dash of 0 minus has been equated to y of 0 as per our assumption. So y double dash of t is equal to s squared yl of s minus 2s minus 1. Y double dash of t has got a Laplace transform given by s squared yl of s minus 2s minus 1. So therefore, the system becomes s squared yl of s minus 2s minus 1, that is y double dash of t, plus 5y dash of t is 5 into s yl of s minus 2 plus 6 yl of s. So S squared y L of s minus 2s minus 1 plus 5 into this term is your Laplace transform for y dash of t. So that is 5 into s y L of s minus 2 plus 6 y L of s is equal to, this should be actually xl of s. This should be equal to xl of s. So read this as xl of s. And you have xl of s is equal to, what is xl of s? X of t is equal to e raised to minus t into u of t. So therefore, xl of s is equal to 1 by s plus 1. And with the region of convergence, real part of s greater than minus 1. Okay, so s squared yl of s. So if you rearrange this on the left hand side, you can write this as s squared yl of s plus 5 yl of s plus 6 yl of s is equal to. Now I will take all these terms without yl to the right hand side. So this we can write as 1 by s plus 1. So plus 2s plus 1 plus 10. So that is 1 by s plus 1 plus 2s plus 11. You write this as 2s squared plus 13s plus 12 by s plus 1. So yl of s into s squared plus 5s plus 6 is equal to 2s squared plus 13s plus 12 by s plus 1. Or yl of s is equal to 2s squared plus 13s plus 12 by s plus 1 into s squared plus 5s plus 6. Factorize the quadratic equation in the denominator as s plus 2 into s plus 3. So this becomes 2s squared plus 13s plus 12 by s plus 1 into s plus 2 into s plus 3, which we can partial factorize as follows: c1 by s plus 1 plus c2 by s plus 2 plus c3 by s plus 3. Evaluate c1, c2, c3 as follows. So c1 you get as 1 by 2, c2 you get as 6, c3 you get as minus 9 by 2, which is equal to minus 4.5. So I'll keep this as minus 9 by 2, it's okay. So yl of s is equal to 1 by 2 into 1 by s plus 1 plus 6 into 1 by s plus 2 minus 9 by 2 into 1 by s plus 3. And therefore we can write y of t as the inverse unilateral Laplace transform for this equation. So y of t is equal to 1 by 2 into e raised to minus t into u of t plus 6 e raised to minus 2t into u of t plus minus 9 by 2 e raised to minus 3t into u of t, e raised to minus 3t into u of t. Okay. Now, you had made your initial assumption that y of 0 is equal to y of 0 minus. And you will also see that y of 0 plus, in this case, y of 0 plus is also equal to y of 0. Y dash of 0 plus is also equal to y dash of 0. Okay. So we'll move on to the next question, where you have an RC circuit. The RC circuit is assumed with a switch which is open before t equal to 0, and this switch is closed at t equal to 0. And the capacitor is assumed to have an initial voltage Vc of 0 minus is equal to V0. Okay. So there is a voltage source V, a resistance capacitance, current flowing through the circuit starting from t equal to 0 onwards. And this is the capacitor voltage. You are given that Vc of 0 minus is equal to small v0. Okay. Is that clear? You know what happens with this circuit? The capacitor charges exponentially through the resistance. So initially there is a current to charge the capacitance, and the current gradually decreases and the current totally stops when the capacitor is fully charged. So that is when the capacitor becomes an open circuit. So initially the capacitor charges. So what will be the current waveform that you will expect, that you can very easily understand. So there will be initially a very high current which will gradually reduce to 0 as t increases. So when it is fully charged, then there is no more t. There is no more current flowing through the circuit. So the differential equation that governs the circuit, you are asked to find out I of t and Vc of t. You need to find what is I of t. What is I of t? Is the current flowing through the circuit. It's the current flowing through the capacitor. And what is Vc of t? Vc of t is the instantaneous voltage across the capacitor. So the capacitor has got an initial voltage of V0. So the instantaneous voltage increases from V0. So we'll write the differential equation that governs the circuit. So R into I of t plus 1 by C integral minus infinity to t I of tau d tau is equal to V into U of t. Why? Because the switch is closed only at t equal to 0. So therefore we can write this as R into IL of S. You will take unilateral Laplace transform through it. R into IL of S plus 1 by C into. Now we have seen that the unilateral Laplace transform of this integral can be represented like this: 1 by C into 1 by S into IL of S plus 1 by S into integral minus infinity to 0 I of tau d tau. On the right hand side, this is equal to V by S. Now you know that the initial stored voltage in the capacitance, initial voltage across the capacitance, Vc of 0 minus is equal to 1 by C integral minus infinity to 0 minus I of tau d tau. So we'll take 0 minus to be equal to 0. And therefore this term 1 by C, if you have 1 by C integral minus infinity to 0 minus I of tau d tau, that's equal to V0. So without that 1 by C, so if you have this should be just C into V0 by S. So this term should be C into V0 by S. So R into IL of S plus 1 by C into 1 by S into IL of S plus C V0 by S is equal to V by S. Okay. Now we will group these terms together. So you can write this as R plus 1 by CS into IL of S is equal to V by S minus V0 by S. V by S minus V0 by S. Therefore, IL of S can be written as V minus V0 by S, V minus V0 by S into 1 by R plus 1 by CS. So V minus V0 by R is our constant here. So if I multiply this through, this becomes 1 by S plus 1 by RC. 1 by S plus 1 by RC. So this becomes V minus V0, this term can be rearranged as V minus V0 by R into 1 by S plus 1 by RC. So that you can understand by multiplying this throughout. So this becomes SR plus 1 by C. If I take R throughout outside, so this you can write as V minus V0 by R into 1 by S plus 1 by RC. So therefore, what is the current? The current would be V minus V0 by R into e raised to minus t by RC into U of t. So you see that the current is exponentially decreasing. So what is the value at t equal to 0? That is the initial surge current. The initial surge current, so e raised to minus t by RC should be equal to, what is that? At t equal to 0, this will be equal to 1. So the initial surge current would be equal to V minus V0 by R. So that is the initial surge current. And you see that this initial surge current decreases as t increases. So if you plot I of t, this would be exponentially decreasing. Plotting I of t would be exponentially decreasing. Now you are required to find out what is Vc of t. That is the capacitor voltage at an instantaneous time t. So instantaneous capacitor voltage. So Vc of t from the expression for the capacitor voltage is 1 by C integral I dt. So that is 1 by C integral minus infinity to t I of tau d tau. So you can write Vc of S is equal to, likewise as before, you take the unilateral Laplace transform of this integral. So 1 by C into 1 by S into I of S plus 1 by S integral minus infinity to 0 minus I of tau d tau, which you can write as 1 by C into 1 by S into I of S plus V naught by S as before. So rearranging, you can write this as 1 by C into I of S plus V naught by S, or Vc of S is equal to I of S plus C V naught by Cs. I of S, you already have this, V minus V naught by R into 1 by S plus 1 by RC by Cs plus C V naught by Cs. Rearranging, you can write this as V minus V naught by RC into 1 by S into S plus 1 by RC plus V naught by S. Now you'll need to partial factorize this, which you can write as C1 by S plus C2 by S plus 1 by RC. C1 you get as RC, C2 you get as equal to minus RC. So you can write VC of S is equal to this expression, which I will leave the solving to yourself. You can do the simplification by simplification, and then you will see that it arrives at you will arrive at this expression, which is equal to V into 1 minus e raised to minus t by RC plus V naught into e raised to minus t by RC into U of t. So you see that it's exponentially increasing. What is the initial value? At t equal to 0, at t is equal to 0, e raised to minus t by RC becomes equal to 1. So this entire term vanishes, and plus here you have V naught into e raised to minus 0 by RC. So this is equal to 1. So the initial value, that is VC of 0, is equal to V0. Okay, so that is the initial voltage, non-zero initial voltage across the capacitor. So VC of 0 is V0. And what is the value at infinity, t equal to infinity? At t equal to infinity, so this term totally vanishes. E raised to minus infinity by RC becomes 0. So this term vanishes. So here, this term vanishes. So the voltage is equal to V. So VC of infinity is equal to capital V. So which means the capacitor voltage exponentially increases. Exponentially increases. The capacitor current exponentially decreases. Capacitor voltage exponentially increases, and when it is fully charged, the capacitor becomes an open circuit. Initially, the capacitor acts as a short because now you had an initial transient, so that's extremely high frequency. For the extremely high frequency, the capacitor is a short circuit. Now, as the capacitor goes on charging. Now, as it goes on charging, the capacitor current reduces, and when it is fully charged, it becomes an open circuit, as we have seen. Is that clear? So when it is fully charged, it becomes an open circuit to the DC that is applied. Okay, so that's all about the problems on solving for analysis of systems using Laplace transforms. So in the next class,